Hello, my name is Linda McAnany, and welcome to my show. My guest today is Dr. James Kellerman. Dr. Kellerman is the Executive Director of the Court-Appointed Special Advocates. We're going to otherwise known as CASA. Dr. Kellerman, thank you and welcome, and thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you very much. My pleasure.
It's always good for us to chat, as we have done for a little bit prior to this point.
Absolutely.
CASA is a relatively new organization, and we want to hear a lot about it. But before we do that, I'd like to learn a little more about you and kind of give your background to our audience.
Well, I worked in higher education most of my career, and all of it has been with community colleges. I was a college president in Florida and director of their state association, and had a similar position in California and director of their association. And then most recently here in Missouri, I was president of the Missouri Community College Association for 22 years. And then I retired.
Wow, and you spent some years in the academic community, certainly.
Yes, I did.
Now, I'm going to call you Jim if you don't
Please
mind.
do.
Jim, how did you become involved with CASA?
Well, when I retired, Linda, I didn't want to quit and do nothing. I saw an ad in the paper. They wanted a half-time executive director for CASA. And I didn't really know what CASA was, but it was an appealing half-time job. And I made an application. That's how I got started. So.
And they said, yes, we want you right now.
I think they did. I know now that they didn't hire me because I knew a lot about CASA, because I didn't at that time.
Well, it was a relatively new organization, was it not?
It was brand new to Cole County, not new to the state. There's 21 other programs, not new to the nation. There's 900, almost 1,000 programs across the country. But we were bringing it to Cole County for the first time.
Well, I think the background on this organization locally is very interesting. Tell us how this local organization was founded and what created it.
Well, interestingly enough, there were the Jefferson City Kiwanis Club, a couple of members, most prominent with regard to CASA, a woman named Melva Dean Lipsey, a very active Kiwanian who also was very instrumental in bringing CASA to Cole County. She had some experience with her family in Kansas City, and just knew it was good for children. And so she was the one that got to Judge Beadham real quick and said, you know, this is what we need to do in the county. So that's how it got started. So
she was instrumental in making sure that it was created here, and it has flourished as an example. Okay, let's talk about the organization. What is its mission, first of all?
Well, our mission is to recruit and train volunteers. They go through a 30 to 40-hour training program. When they complete that program, they're sworn in by the judge as an officer of the court. We teach them how to maneuver and represent the voice for these children. They oftentimes don't have any other voice. Mom and dad, for whatever reason, have gotten in trouble. The children have been removed from their home. Maybe they can't talk to their mom, maybe they can't talk to their dad, but they can talk to their CASA volunteer, and they do. And so they're the constant for the time that they're in the system. They're more often than not placed in a foster home. Sometimes they have to change foster homes 2 or 3 times for a variety of reasons.
Which it has to be unstabling to a child.
Well, you know it is. And then they have their caseworker in the children's division and juvenile division and so forth. Guardian ad litem as an attorney. And these youngsters, you know, all the way from newborns that are born in the hospital drug addicted to teenagers, you know, who are frightened, might be an appropriate word, of the court system. They don't understand it, but they know this volunteer is going to be with them from the day that they agree to take on the case until that case has a happy ending for that child.
You mentioned that the volunteers go through training. Is this social training? What kind of things, as an example, are they maybe not taught, but made aware of?
Well, the National CASA Association has developed a curriculum that's universal across the country. And so we have a training manual, you know, it's about 2 inches thick. And there is anything you could think of that happens in the court system is in that manual. We talk about diversity. We talk about the different cultures, the children you might run into, and those kind of nuances. We talk about what happens in court and how long it takes. And when these children come in, I'll get a call, and there'd be a drug raid last night, and they'll say, we took in 3 children. And we're required by law to meet within 24 hours. I go representing our program and find out, the purpose of that meeting, we find out why were these kids brought in. Once I learn that, I return and I look at my cadre of CASA volunteers and sort of decide which one do I think would be most suited for this case. And then we have to meet again, that same team of people within 72 hours. And that meeting is to make a plan. What do mom and dad need to do to get their children back? If they're on drugs, they may have drug rehab. If there's abuse, they may have to have anger management. They may need parenting. They probably need a job. It's really a long list of things they need to accomplish and achieve. And in the meantime, these kids are in foster care. And they have court dates set where the judge assesses the progress of mother and dad. Mom and dad are mad. Their children were taken away from them, just as you and I would be mad if our children were.
Sure.
They think the system's against them. Takes them a little while sometimes to recognize that they're the reason those children were taken away. I don't want to go to drug rehab. I can quit on my own. You know, I can find a job. You know, suitable housing, we spend a lot of time talking about what is minimally sufficient. Suitable housing might not be a place where you and I would live, but it's a place that has the floors intact, there's no bugs, the windows are all right, they got heat, they got air conditioning, they got food, they got a place for the children to sleep and so forth. That's suitable housing. And so we talk a lot about that. And then how to work with the different agencies and try to find the kinds of services that mom and dad need to get their children back. You notice I'm saying mom and dad rather than husband and wife, because more times than not, they're not married. And sometimes one parent will do what they need to do promptly, the other parent won't, and that delays it. These cases are lasting anywhere from a year to a year and a half. We have one that's in its 3rd year.
And it has not been resolved as yet?
Not been resolved.
Oh, wow.
What happens is that one or both of the parents don't do what they need to do. And, you know, when we have that 72-hour meeting, we go right into court, and the court says to the mom and dad, you agreed to this plan. Was there anything on this plan that was unreasonable to ask you? And they always say no. Anything that you can't do or won't be able to do? And they say no. And the judge will say, well, we'll see you back here in 30 days. We come back in 30 days for a progress report. He didn't go to drug rehab. She didn't go to Alcoholics Anonymous. The parenting classes hadn't started. And so that's a delay of 30 days right there. And then go back to work. And what our volunteers are doing, you know, they're doing some investigations, some research. Maybe there's a grandma that lives in Taos that they can go out and visit grandma. They're an officer of the court, so they have the right to get any and all records. They can go to school and get school records, talk to the teachers, medical records, whatever they need to try to do the best assessment they can on the needs of these children.
And I'm assuming to stabilize the child during this horrific time
because
of their lives.
You know, one of the things I had to get grips on, and it never dawned on me till I started doing this. You know, you take a 3-year-old child who's been in foster care for 2 years, 2/3 of his entire life has not been at home with mom and dad. Foster parents are great and wonderful people. Thank God for them, you know. But you have a situation where a 9-year-old boy is incorrigible, hard to manage. 3 months later, the foster parents said, take him back. We can't handle him. He's off to another foster home. And sometimes in their life, they can be in 4 or 5 different foster homes. And, you know, and when they're teenagers, 15, 16, 17, they got to start thinking about, what am I going to do?
Right.
You know, we may No one wants to adopt a 17-year-old.
Well, it's a very tumultuous time for
Absolutely.
a young person anyway, much less to be in a circumstance where they have no stability or...
We spend a lot of time when we're working with that age group to talk them into staying in the system till they're 21. And the reason that is because when you're 17 and a half and 18, you're ready to age out of the system. Mm-hmm. There are resources to help you get education training, community colleges, technical school. There's resources to help you find jobs. There's resources to help you find suitable housing. But they sometimes feel like, gee, I've been in the system all this time. It's time to get out. I get out.
Right. I can handle it. I'm old enough.
I have no money. I have no job.
Yeah.
I have nowhere to turn. And statistically, nationally, 70% of them are back in the system. They have to steal to eat, get on drugs, you know, you name it.
And perhaps end up in an environment where they have children who are
Absolutely.
back into that system. You mentioned Judge Beadham as being your contact with the court. Are there others? Is he the only contact, or are there others?
Well, no. You know, we work very closely with that pool of guardian ad litems, the attorneys for the children. We work very closely with the Children's Division Agency and with the Juvenile Agency. Those are our primary contacts, you know, and so that team that comes together to make a plan has representatives from each of those agencies.
Yeah.
And then there may be an attorney for mom and there may be an attorney for dad.
Yeah. So it's a group.
It's a group of people. Yeah.
Well, we're going to take a break right now. When we come back, we're going to talk about how the agency is funded. In addition, what are some of the requirements needed to be a volunteer? Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Mm-hmm. 2 o'clock. Okay.
Your employees who serve in the National Guard and Reserve may seem different. They may work a little harder, be more confident, more willing to make the extra effort to get the job done right. So when your employees need time off to serve, remember, it's not just good for our country, it's good for your business.
Glad you could all make it.
Before a disaster turns your family's world upside down, it's up to you to be ready. Get a kit, make a plan, be informed today. Learn how at ready.gov.
Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. My guest today is Dr. James Kellerman, Jim. He is the Executive Director of CASA. And we're talking about the organization as it is in a whole, but I know a very important part of the organization, as we've just discussed, are the volunteers. Tell us, we're going to get into the funding, but tell us a little bit about what do you look for in a volunteer?
And that's a question I'm always asked, you know, what are you looking for? I think there's an assumption out there that this is a different kind of volunteering, and it is, that maybe I need to be a lawyer, maybe I need to be a teacher, maybe I need to be a nurse. And I say, you know what we're looking for? We're looking for someone who cares about children.
Good
That's
point.
the only qualification.
Absolutely.
We're going to teach you how to maneuver through the court system on behalf of those children. And, you know, that'll come. So I have them from all walks of life. I have retirees to new moms and everything in between, nurses and so forth. Early on, Linda, I told the judge, I said, I would like to appoint the volunteers to the cases. And he very quick said, you can't do that. He said, I have to appoint them. I said, well, I didn't quite mean that. What I meant was that I'm spending 40 hours in training with them. I get to know them. I know them better than anybody else, let me put it that way. It's not foolproof, but you know, I want that nurse to take the baby that's born in the hospital addicted. I want that pediatrician to work with a baby, you know. I want that male role model person to take that 14-year-old boy that hasn't had a man in his life, hasn't had a dad in his life. And so I try to place them, you know, and the young mother who tells me, I have a 2-year-old and I couldn't handle a case where a 2-year-old had been sexually abused. So I make sure she doesn't have that case.
Right.
And so we try to place them that way, and then the judge appoints them. And that's how they get assigned to the cases.
So you don't have other than certainly a caring individual, you don't have a list of attributes or career plans that you want these volunteers to be part of.
That's right. But you know, this community is so rich in people wanting to help.
Very caring, that's right.
We never have any trouble getting enough candidates to have a training class. We have a training class going on right now. We're halfway through it. We have 16 volunteers. And whenever I put out a call for volunteers, I'll get 20, 30, 40. And then I'll get 16 that are really serious about it and get into it. And at that rate, you know, we're adding to our volunteer force. When this current class finishes and begin to go to work, we'll have 60 volunteers. Some of the volunteers, you know, when they've been on a case for a year and a half, they may say, well, I've done my duty and I'm out of here. And someone moves away, or I'm amazed at how many of them are ready to say, well, this one had a happy ending and I'm ready to take on another case. You know,
that's great.
It is great.
You know, I think you've talked about this, but there are numerous ways that these volunteers can impact the life of a child, not only currently, but I'm assuming in the long run as well.
You know, we actually had our first class in 2011. Mm-hmm. So we've only been in existence, you know, these 5 in our 6th year. But I know anecdotally across the country, that 12-year-old girl that had a CASA volunteer at a time when she had nobody else in her life graduates from high school and invites the volunteer back to her graduation, and graduates from college and invites them and says, I wouldn't be here if it weren't for my CASA volunteer. That's how impactful they can be with these children. You know.
As parents begin to, I'm going to use my words, come around, mm-hmm. and they improve the family environment, have you seen instances where that parent or parents and the volunteer kind of continue to work together with the children? Yes,
we do. And you know, when the case is terminated from the court, mm-hmm. and Judge Beadham's office tells the parents, says, I want to get out of your lives. And so we want to get this over with and get out of there. My volunteers will ask me, say, well, my case is over, but can I still talk with them? Can I still see them? I said, I hope you will. You know, you are such an important part of their life. To just cut it off cold turkey, you know, might not be the best thing. So you do whatever you want. You know, it's not formal or official anymore.
Right.
You know.
Well, and they can continue to influence, perhaps in different ways, a child or a young person. I think we automatically talk of them as being children, but they may be young people as well who continue to need that influence.
One of our volunteers who worked with a young man, that young man is out now, has his own family and has 2 children. And the volunteer, gave him a car that he had in his family, a second used car, because he didn't have a vehicle. So that relationship was still going on. He was still helping that guy.
That's great.
And so that's healthy and that's good.
Now, if someone is interested in volunteering, what do they need to do?
Well, if they'd make contact with our office, you know, our telephone number is 893-CASA, 2272. Just call up and tell them of your interest. We'll do a telephone interview. We'll provide them with an application and some other materials. Then we'll set up another interview. I want to make sure they understand that it's a unique and different kind of volunteering. They come to us, you know, I volunteer at my church. I said, that's wonderful, and you keep doing that. But this is a little different than that.
Sure,
you know,
absolutely.
So I want them to know what is expected of them. And they commit to stay for the duration of that case.
Yeah. And I'm going to repeat that phone number. It's area code 573-893-2272. 2272. Or you can visit www.capitalcitycasa.org, and capital is with an A, CAPITAL, citycasa.org, and that's you can find some really good information on the website as well. How is the organization funded, Jim?
Well, better today than it was when I first started. When this program started in Cole County, the National CASA Association provides, I think it's $20,000 or $25,000 to get started. Mm-hmm. And then we get $10,000 annually from the Missouri CASA Association, which came through the legislature to them, and they distribute to the different programs in the state.
And you said there were 21 in the state?
21 programs in the state.
Wow.
And we have to raise the rest of our money.
Okay.
And so as we grow the program now, they didn't have to pay me a lot. I had retired, and they didn't have to pay Tricia, my wife, because we did this out of our home, and they managed not to pay us very much because they didn't have anything.
That's right.
But we've grown the program and we've grown the budget. We're able to do that by writing for grants, get some funding, and I'm thrilled to death that last year the United Way agency accepted us as a partner agency, and that was a very important relationship and marriage to our program.
Yes, and that was a there were 2 new agencies brought on board. Your agency was one of them. How are the United Way funds used?
Well, we were able to hire for the first time, a half-time position with a coordinator for volunteers. Tricia and I had been doing it all. And so now we have a half-time coordinator position in there, and we'd be able to take on more volunteers as a result of it. And then we got a VOCA grant. Just took effect in April, which let us hire a full-time volunteer coordinator. So we have those 2 positions now added to Tricia and I. So we have a 4-person staff, and by them coming on board, we're able to train more volunteers and follow them and monitor them and those kinds of things. There's an awful lot of work related to keeping that volunteer and all the cases and all the paperwork and all the data flowing. So.
I can't even imagine. Not only as you say, keeping them straight, so to speak, connected, but also I imagine these volunteers have to have background checks and many other. In other words, there's a lot of technical things that have to be done as well.
Those teams that I described earlier, we now have 60 volunteers, or will have. They all have those team meetings. Mm-hmm. And so I was attending those meetings with them, and now my coordinators are going to be able to do that. They all have court dates, not all the same. Many of them are the same day, but not all of them. And so we have to cover all of that. Field the reports from them. They write reports. They write a court report that goes to the judge. So the judge has this information that they were able to produce and give to him to help him make a best decision for those children.
I think I forgot to ask you. Is this a Cole County? Is it only Cole County, is it? Okay.
It's the 19th Judicial Circuit, which is Cole County.
Okay.
So, and I do get calls from some neighboring counties that don't have a CASA program and want to know if we can help them. And unfortunately, I have to say no. If your situation is not in the system in Cole County,
right,
we're not able to help.
Well, God bless you for what you and your wife are doing and have done, getting this organization going. And if you would like more information, and I hope you do, about the CASA program, you can call 573-893-2272, or you can log on to or visit www.capitalcitycasa.org. A lot of good information, and encourage you to continue to learn about this organization. One last thing, you have a new fundraiser coming up. It's a golf tournament. It's going to be held this year for the first time in May, and hopefully, we won't get into the details, but hopefully this will be an ongoing golf tournament for you.
That's our plan, and we're holding it out at the country club. What a great golf course
That's
to,
right.
to be able to play
All right.
on. So,
Jim, thanks again.
thanks, Linda. I
And
appreciate it.
For everything you're doing. We look forward to seeing you next time. Good night and God bless.